the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice. But here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Paul Bratzlovsky, and Sarah Kimmel.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about everything technology, from AI to VR and robots to flying cars. This week I'm joined by Paul Bratzlovsky, Sarah Kimmel, and I am Kevin Doyle. Coming up in this week's episode, the $5 billion Google lawsuit over the Incognito mode moves a little bit closer to trial. Did you know Netflix has games? Because I didn't. Amazon adds generative AI review summaries on mobile devices. We will continue on, unfortunately, with our Elon of the Week section. And then we'll wrap up with our Null, Not Null recommendation section, where we recommend that you avoid a product or service. So let's start with our Google $5 billion lawsuit. I don't think I saw that this was a lawsuit until this week, but this has been a lawsuit for a minute. It is a class action lawsuit brought about by 3 or 4 different plaintiffs, users of Google Chrome. So Google are defending this class action lawsuit that alleges that they have tracked internet activity, even incognito mode, on their Chrome browser. So they pushed, and the reason with this came up in the news, they pushed for a summary judgment and it was denied by the California judge. So it is moving closer. I say closer to trial. It may not go to trial still. It could still settle. You know, there's a bunch of hurdles you got to jump over. So we still may never hear this in a court, but it's one step closer. They couldn't basically dismiss it. So the accusation is that Google's cookies and analytics and other tools continue to track your browsing activity even after you'd activated the incognito mode within Chrome. So Google basically, the other accusation says that Google stores the user's regular and private browsing data in the same logs, which was interesting. It uses then those mixed logs to send you personalized ads. And even if the individual data points gathered were anonymous by themselves, when aggregated, Google can then use them to uniquely identify a user with a high probability of success. So we know like digital fingerprinting is a thing, right? You know, like somebody's activity can generally identify who that person is. So that's kind of one of the accusations here. And even when they turn on incognito mode, it still tracks cookies. It still tracks activity. It's basically saying that private isn't private. So Sarah, let me ask you, what do you think? Is private browsing really private? What does it mean? And do we have other options other than Chrome? What about things like Brave and Tor and DuckDuckGo? And have you used any of those?
Yeah, I actually haven't used any of like Brave or DuckDuckGo or anything like that. Because my philosophy is nothing is private, no matter what you're doing. And I mean, that goes for everything, whatever you're doing on your phone, what you're doing on your computer, nothing is actually really private, especially because it's going through the ISP. Even if you have a VPN, it's still going through the VPN network. So you're going to be tracked, and if you look at any of these like court cases, they have your search history, they have everything that you're doing. So you're never going to truly hide anything. So I think calling it like incognito or private mode is really misleading. And I can see where a court case can like have some legs because of that misleading verbiage. But if it doesn't have everything is not private. So that's basically, and I think everyone just really needs to understand that. And that's one thing I really don't like about verbiage like that, is that it gives people a false sense of security. They're like, oh, I'm browsing incognito, so everything is going to be, say if I can look up, how to murder my spouse or something. And
yeah, hold on, let me put that in a private tab real quick, just so nobody right. No, that's not how it works.
That's exactly and I think that's a lot what a lot of people think when they see that. And so I can see how that's misleading, but it gives them a false sense of security. But I don't care. There's nothing that I'm looking up that,
agreed.
Like I'm not trying to murder my spouse or anything like that, and so I don't really mind that nothing's private, just because I know that nothing's private. And I would rather be served up ads that are more tailored to me than getting random ads. Like a lot of people are kind of creeped out by that, but I would rather see something that I actually want to buy than like stupid stuff I'm never going to want to buy.
Right, because at this point, you can't turn them off.
Right.
So, and even if you do try and turn them off, even with things like an ad blocker, like I have an ad blocker running on the website that we're looking at today, you'll still see ads. They still show up. They just won't be personalized ads. So yeah, it's still, nothing is really private. I think you're right, Sarah. I think it's a matter of, it's an understanding of what Google says is private and what the user thinks is private. Because Google knows it isn't private, right? It's their like halfway of saying like, it's kind of private. Like it's private from you, maybe from the next person who picks up your device. Maybe they can't see your history, but Google can see it. Your ISP can see it. Everybody else can see it. It's just not visible on your device. And I think that's the thing. It's an understanding of what private actually means.
Yeah, I think like maybe a better name for it would be clean browsing or something like that, just because I do use incognito mode when I'm trying to resolve like a coding issue on a website or
100%.
Or check, or if I'm having issues with a particular website, I'll try it in incognito mode just to see if, there's something that's conflicting or anything. And that's really the only reason I use it. So like the word clean makes it a little more clear as to like, okay, this is kind of a clean browser where it's not going to be messed up with some of the other stuff you've got installed.
Exactly. I'll sometimes do on things like YouTube where it's like we have a signed out account or something and you want to see what the actual algorithm is serving somebody who isn't you. Right? So you go to that and there's no cookies and it's clean and you can see like where a video ranks when you search it. Because that's what I'll use it for. I'll use it to search a certain rank. Because I'll be like, because I'll know that my video is going to be at the top because it knows that I'm me and it's going to show me my video at the top. Whereas a different user, I know it's not going to be at the top and I want to know where it appears in the actual ranks for everybody else.
That's what it is? I'm like, wow, my video is doing so good. Look at that. I find it here. Go incognito mode. You can't even find it. It's like
not even in the list.
Like
no, exactly.
It's not on the radar. That's what it is. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. It wants you to think you're doing better than you are.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only used Chrome browser and like the idea of like anything private or secure, like whatever, like it's just like, anything that you do on the net is somewhere being, recorded and stored. It's just the way
I'm sure you can jump through a bunch of hurdles. You can do VPNs, you can do these other things. You can use like Tor, right? So Tor is the one place that maybe you can go more private, right? You can use use the Tor browser, but that's like people use that to access the dark web and those kind of things. But you can use it for regular browsing too. It is a regular browser. You can use the Tor network and use the Tor browser, and it can be more anonymous. I understand people wanting to do that. If you have the option to do that, I understand that. They don't want to be tracked. They don't want all this other stuff. I get it. I understand that side of things, and I think we should push for that. But I think just your average everyday person doesn't understand or want to be able to, have all this extra software and jump all through all the extra hoops. They just want to understand that they can click that new tab and it be private, and it is private, and it's not. And they just have to understand it's not.
I think somewhere I saw and maybe it's because of this lawsuit, but I saw an article where they were saying like how Chrome, or when you do incognito, it's not private per se. It just doesn't store visibly your websites you visited, but it's still stored somewhere. So the crazy thing, I took some security classes like a while back, and I realized that like privacy doesn't exist like people think. And I think there should be more awareness for regular folks to really understand that you don't have any privacy. And they were kind of talking about like all the different ways stuff happens. And basically what they said is that if you're important enough to the state, they will find you. It's like all it takes, basically the more money you have and time, those two things. And state has both time and money. And if you like doing something nefarious you shouldn't do, they're going to eventually find you. And it's just, there is no privacy. And I guess like for me, it's how do they use that information? If it's like to improve our lives, better serve ads and stuff like that, that's cool. But if it's like spying on us, like, and everything else, like that's a different story. What I mean?
A little A, a little B, I think.
I was going to say it's a little bit A of B, and it's like, what can we get away with people not figuring out? But I think if anybody took like intro to security and networking class, they would all be blown away. I just went to like DEF CON, and literally I didn't carry my phone, and they had literally had this thing called like Wall of Shame, where it's like everybody who got hacked while at the conference. And it's just insane. And like from social engineering to like just like the regular internet. And the craziest thing, like the two most common ways that people get hacked, this is what like most people think, like it'll be okay if I click this one image just to see. And it's like, no, you're done. You're in trouble. But it was cool. One thing I learned that GitHub doesn't verify anything. So we were able to go on GitHub, and part of like the presentation I took is how to make your GitHub look authentic, like you work for a verified company, how you have like all these stars and projects. So I learned how to create your whole fake history of all the green, like little squares, how to create all the badges. Like you could get all the badges. I didn't use it on my account because it's obviously linked to work, but we made a fake one. And by the time we were done, it looked way better than my actual profile. And I was just like, oh God. And it was so easy to do that. I was just like, come on, really? This is how easy. That was like the big shock for me, how easy it is to fake stuff on GitHub. It blew my, like you could have commits. I could have commit from Elon Musk if he has a GitHub account. Like you learn how to fake that. So I could have all these big people like Zuck, like say, hey, great code, Paul. It'll be like his picture, his commit history. It's like, because I was really shocked how easy to fake.
Celebrity endorsements on Paul's GitHub incoming.
Nice.
Exactly. So to me, like, it's just, listen, with the more technologically advanced you get, the less privacy you're going to have. That's basically the way it is.
That seems to be the way we've gone. Yeah,
and there's
definitely
no other way around it. You know, it's just.
Yeah, like I say, I think you've got to get to a point where you probably can get it, but it's very technical to get it. I think your average person isn't going to jump through the hoops.
It's too much work. So I literally took a course looking at like a networking, because I thought that's what I wanted to do when I went to college. Then I switched to like programming, but it's literally like talking about how easily people could identify you and like all these different things they could do. So I was like, man, just don't do anything stupid. You know what I mean? It's just so much easier. It's
That's
like,
it. Don't try and not get tracked. Just don't do stupid stuff. Right? That's just easier.
You need to get a whole degree and a half just to like browse. Say, like, you kidding me? It's not worth it. Just, whatever.
That's great life advice, everybody. There you go. Listen to Paul's life advice there. Don't try and hide your tracks. Just don't do stupid stuff to start off with, and you'll be fine.
Well, I talk about that too a lot on my platform, because a lot of kids will be like, why don't you give your kids privacy? Because I have all, monitoring and parental controls and things like that. I'm like, do you think I have privacy? I don't have any privacy. You don't have any privacy. Like, my kid is not going to have privacy even when they're an adult, so I'm going to monitor what they're doing while I am still responsible for them, because that's going to be, I'm going to help them to not make mistakes.
Exactly. It's good training.
Right. Yeah. And when they do make mistakes, I can like cut it off at the pass, and hopefully it doesn't spread further. But yeah, so like I get that one all the time where people are like, your kids deserve privacy. I'm like, nobody gets privacy.
Nobody's
like, don't fool yourselves.
If you want privacy, you need to be like, go back
off
like
the
100
grid,
years,
right?
Like 150 years, go back before the internet, before anything.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was like, I used to have, I probably mentioned this story before, like a friend who's police officer in a narcotics unit. He's like, I just go on Facebook and see what little pictures people post. A lot of times they're posting with evidence, with their stupid stuff they did, and then we sure enough go find them, and they're like, how did you catch me?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know.
Like, sir, you're waving the gun on Facebook.
Yeah. It's like, hey. It's like, you're still wearing that shirt that you committed the crime in.
It's not my shirt.
That's amazing.
Like, I can see you wearing this same shirt in like 5 different photos. But the one thing on this I don't get, like, and I understand the judge throwing this part out, because judges just really don't like to make decisions. Like, they'd rather a jury make the decision. So if there's even like a little teeny tiny bit of like validity to the case, then they're gonna like let the jury decide. And so I can understand why they threw this out, but $5 billion. I mean, really, where are you getting that number? Like, how are you damaged to the tune of $5 billion?
It's some kind of class action, right? So I'm guessing they must have, I don't know where they came with the math. I haven't read the thing to come with the math, but I'm guessing it's, put it this way, if it does go through and they do lose and it is $5 billion, you're going to get it's going to be one of those cases where, think how many Chrome users there are. What are we going to get? $1.50 each? Exactly. Yeah. It might cost Google a lot of money, but we're not getting a lot.
Google.
Exactly.
I was going to say, they must have heard the last podcast where we made fun where people just asking for little money, like 2 million, like Korean.
It's like the $5 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's exactly. They're like, I think that's what happened.
Did you guys even know that Netflix had games? I didn't either.
I think I did at one point, but ignored it shortly thereafter.
I didn't even know this was a thing. So apparently Netflix has games. I didn't know Netflix has games. But yeah, they've began testing more games or different kinds of games on TVs and computers in Canada and the UK. So I did try and VPN to this to see if I could get this on my TV. And I guess I'm not in the group. There's a limited number of Netflix subscribers, and mine isn't, because I guess I'm not there normally. So I'm not in the group. So I couldn't test these out on the TV and computer. But they also have so actually they've had games for a while. They've had a couple of different kinds of classes of games, I guess you could say. So they have those interactive video games, right? They have like this section of kind of games, Bandersnatch being one of them, which is the more famous one that they had, the Black Mirror kind of interactive game. They have these U versus Wild. So these are like choose your own adventure games. They're kind of like, it's video format. Yeah. And then they also had these trivia games too, where it's like there's a character and you kind of answer questions with your remote. So they've had those for a minute. And they've also had, I didn't know this, but on your mobile app, they also have a games shelf as well. These are basically just mobile games. Some of them are Netflix themed, like there's a bunch of Stranger Things games on here and those kind of stuff. They have 70 mobile games. You don't see them on the desktop. You only see them on a shelf on your application on your phone. And you basically download them, and they're like regular games, regular like mobile games. There's a bunch on there. Some you've heard of, some maybe that I hadn't heard of. But these are more like traditional mobile games. So they've had these things for a minute. But what they're doing now is more on TVs and on computers, in addition to all this other gaming stuff they've got going on. So these ones, they introduced a new application, which is a remote application, which you see right here. So you run it on your phone, and it's a gaming app that then connects to your TV, so you can have more of a, you have buttons and a joypad, or even if it's like it's flat, right? So it's not really, but a fake stick of some kind. I don't know how it's going to play. It's not going to be tactile. It's going to be interesting, but we'll see. I couldn't test it. I tried, but it would be interesting to see. So yeah, they're pushing into gaming more than I even realized. So they have that 70 games. They have the whatever it is, the 20 odd interactive games. They have these new couple that they're pushing on this platform. They've said that they have 40 total games slated for launch this year, 16 being developed in-house, and 70 more being developed with its partners. So they're really pushing into this mobile games thing. So I don't know if do you game at all, Paul? Is this something you even consider?
But I wouldn't call that gaming. I think all the games probably suck. If I was honest, their demographic would probably be like grandpas and grandmas, or anybody who wants to mindlessly like push things and like scroll things, because all they want to do is create ways to capture your attention longer. They're like, oh, if they're not watching TV, maybe they'll play game if you could make it mobile. And the interesting parallel that I want to make is that when I went to Vegas, I saw all the slot machines. And I remember, I don't really gamble at all. But I remember when I was really, really young, I also went to a casino, and I had this kind of this image. Everything is shiny, cool, is exciting, very short, attention span required, very easy actions that you do, and you just sit glued. And I was thinking about it, it's hey, I wonder if before mobile games were invented, I wonder if they studied the casinos and the whole thing. And I'm sure they did, because you could literally see now, looking back, and I'm they literally want to create ways for people to spend more time on the platform without any value. So the games that I like to play, it's either things that I can't do in real life. I can't do a first person shooter in real life. That's because I don't want to die.
That would be
That's
bad.
stupid.
At least don't search for it first.
I can't recklessly drive through a city, so I play a game. Or I can't fly, and I'll never fly because I'm already too old to even go back to take classes. How do I know this? I actually considered becoming a pilot, and they're by the time you graduate, sorry, no one's going to hire you. Unfortunately. And so
wow.
I'll play flight simulator. So the games of things that I can't do in life, but the type of games where you sit mindlessly, which don't really have anything that you get outside of clicking a button, scrolling, which is the type of games you'll play on your TV anyway, or mobile games. To me, it's just a waste of your life and your experience. Sorry for all of you who like those clickety button pushing games, the button pusher simulator. It's because for me, it's I'll play games of things that I can't do in real life. And if
I think you're
that's
right
basically
that these kind of games fill the same kind of void that a casino kind of fills. It is that same kind of like mindless button pushing. If you've ever, I'm sure you saw this when you were there, you can sit at a spot in a casino and watch somebody play those games and be like, wow, like you are addicted. I can see that this is an actual thing for you because you wouldn't, it is like tunnel vision. It is absolute tunnel vision into that thing. It's insane. And I see the same stuff with this when people play like that farm simulator or whatever it is. So there's a bunch of these mobile games that I think they fill those same like neural needs.
Yes.
Right? I think it really does.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, but you're talking about studying casinos. That's actually why social media apps swipe down to refresh. If you like, it's like pulling a slot machine. You swipe down to refresh, and then you have something new to see, and you're like, I win. So it's that same kind of like action. You swipe down, you refresh, and then you win.
Bunch of smart people figured out how our monkey brains work, and they're not taking advantage of us. Like,
That's it.
Push the button. And I'm sure people who went to psychology classes made fun of like experience where a monkey is trained to push a button. It's like, what do you think you are? Like at this point, on your mobile phone, what are you doing? Scroll left, scroll right. The pushing the like, what are you doing? So I'm actually like been actively trying to not do as much social, and I'm really like aggressively trying to get myself not to rely on it and kind of like wean off the social interaction, because I realize a lot of it, it's like it's like a trained response where you, like you said, you pull a lever, you scroll, you get something exciting, but after 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, it's like nothing new happened in your life. You didn't get any value or insight or improvement. To me, it's just very egregious way of like robbing people of their time. And the only reason I don't get mad at it, even though I think they're very smart about like taking advantage of our addictive behavior, the only reason I don't get mad at it is because I still have to participate. And so I should kind of make a decision and kind of opt out, even though it could be very difficult.
Definitely. I'm wondering if Netflix are looking at like the App Store, like the Apple App Store, or even the Google Play Store, whatever, and they're looking at like what are the top apps in there? Because if you look, they're games. They're always games. The top paid apps are always games. So I'm guessing they're looking at that and being like, we can have some of that. We have the infrastructure. We're serving video. We can serve games the same way. They're like, why don't we just try it out? And then apparently they're going all in now. They have a division, like a studio. They're building them in house. They're partnering with people. We're going to have another 100 games or so this year from them on this platform.
I wonder it's because their new show's been sucking so much. They're trying to enter a new market because of all the cancellations, and they're just like, maybe by the time we can't make any more good shows, maybe we'll be into games. But I did have a hack that I figured out. So you know how people that gamble in the casino get free drinks? I didn't know that was a thing. But I don't gamble, right? I have something like against it for some reason. So I decided that I wanted to watch people gamble. And so there was a table of people playing poker. So I moved my chair like really close to the poker table with this idea that I can't see. So I need to be closer to see what they're doing. And every time the waitress come by, I just ordered a drink because she must have assumed that was part of the group at the table. I'm just waiting my turn. She didn't ask. So I just was like, and at first I was like, maybe you should say like, can I buy a drink? Because that'll imply like, you don't know what's going on. And instead I was like, just skip the buy part. Just ask for what you want. I mean,
Paul, you were at a hacker conference. Social engineering is part of the game, right? I mean, you've got at least, it was a study. It's work.
Definitely a
this
study.
is work.
A few gin and tonics later, I was like, this is great. I love that. It was a good time. Yeah. So
that's great.
Kevin, as you were saying though, like a controller on a phone is a terrible user experience, I think. Like nobody, like this is not comfortable to hold. So why would it's better if I think I saw that they are going to be selling like an actual controller, which would make that better. But
I guess, but why reinvent the wheel too? Controllers already exist. Support PlayStation controllers, support Xbox controllers, support any generic Bluetooth controller. You're good to go. You don't have to have a proprietary one.
Oh, for sure. So go ahead.
I was going to say, just support what already exists. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I guess the reason they're doing it here is because everyone has a phone, right? So it's like, it's an easy in. They can say, well, everybody has the controller because everyone has a phone, but they should definitely have the option of having a device with real buttons on it.
So like, here's the one thing I'm just going to say, like, you know, you don't see game studios making TV shows and Netflix. Like, I think they're trying to spread themselves too thin. It's like, and this is why I think they're going to make like stupid, like mobile games, like button pushing simulators and nothing else. And they're probably going to have some sort of like monthly add-on that you have to pay for dumbass games. Sorry.
No, I'm wondering if that's the way we're going. If there is going to be like, it's an add-on.
And they're going to have like microtransactions probably where it's so easy, you know, like, and they know that if they get you to start paying monthly, you'll probably forget to cancel, and it's going to be such a small amount. So it's a way for them to make revenue, even though nobody's going to use them. Yeah, I'll stick to like normal, regular games, you know. Although,
yeah, I'm with you.
I was going to say Netflix does have a new series that I've been watching. I think it's on Netflix. It's called Lincoln Lawyer. It's pretty good.
Lincoln Lawyer?
Lincoln Lawyer. Yeah, and it's the type of show I was like, I'm definitely not going to like it, and I can't stop watching it. It's so annoying. So annoying, but it's a pretty good show.
Oh,
yeah. Lincoln,
the
the
only
Lincoln
games,
Lawyer. Yeah.
I don't want to play it.
Sorry, the only games that I really think being successful on Netflix is those ones you were talking about, where it's like a choose your own adventure, where you're like, it's a show, and you're like, you know, changing the outcome. Love that for the platform. I think that would be super successful. The other thing I could see of like trivia games, you know, like pop culture trivia, where you're playing with the people that you're like watching with, but like single person games, like, you know, Paul was saying, a first person shooter. Yeah, I'm not going to Netflix for that. So I don't know what you're doing there. But go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, although if they did want to enter like somewhat this like gaming / adventure / like visual experience, they should create content that could be consumed on VR. They may have those like choices of like your adventure. I think that would be like way cooler, and nobody else is doing it. And you know, I'm just gonna
see. Yeah, I could see a Netflix VR something could be kind of interesting. Yeah, VR, because we've talked about this for a long time in the world of VR, right? Like having a movie that's in VR, like where you can like, you're in the center of something and it can kind of like, it can be around you and you can choose kind of what you want to watch. Is kind of interesting. And Netflix could be the platform to do that on, I think.
Yeah. And that'll be awesome because like I have this game, Cyberpunk, and there's a VR mod for it. And literally all I do is I'll put the mod on and I'll literally find a spot in the skyscraper and just sit there looking around. Like, this is cool. You know, it's because I'll never do it in real life. I actually
do living in the future, Paul.
Exactly. Exactly. And I do that with Flight Simulator. My friend's like, oh, like, do you play Flight Simulator? I'm like, yeah, I played in VR. He's like, how do you play it? Well, I'll start the plane. I'll fly up. I'll set the altitude. And then I'll take 10 steps back and sit in the cabin and just look around the window and just wait till it's time for me to land.
It's always on time. You never have to worry about delays.
Exactly.
No cancellations.
Yeah, but like, I realized that part of VR is just the experience of doing like normal things that just like cooler than normal life, I guess. But yeah, they should do that.
Yeah, I did look through the list, Kevin, that you posted of like some of the games that are available. And one of them I saw was this Cut the Rope Daily.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, they're totally piggybacking on the whole Wordle craze, where you've got one puzzle every day that's the same for everybody, and like wanting to kind of get in on that. So I thought that was interesting. Still not something that I want to go to Netflix for, but
so Cut the Rope's an old game, but I didn't know there was a daily version of it. But yeah, that's the same. Yeah, it's that same kind of thing, isn't it? So it's the Wordle model on a different kind of game, which is interesting. I do like that model, but yeah, I'm not sure I will go to Netflix to do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like, cause then how do you like? Cause the main draw of Wordle is like, you know, you share it with people. You're like, oh, you know, how many did you get it in today?
That was the killer feature of Wordle. The game itself was overly simplistic. The killer feature of Wordle was the way that you shared it and its visual grid that it showed you, and the way that you shared it on social.
Yeah.
That was its killer feature. The game itself was kind of like mundane. It was been done before. It was the social part that really pushed it over the edge.
I think it's already kind of like a game Netflix already had. I think it was called Share Your Password.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
That's now not free. They're actually
not
charging
free
for that
anymore.
now.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Now they're playing the other game because we played that game too much. See, this is what happened. We played the Share Your Password game too much that now they're like, well, now we're going to share more money with us. Game. Like, how can we figure it out? This is what you get. See, it's all our fault.
Darn it.
So Amazon has begun rolling out AI-generated review summaries. So currently this is a mobile-only feature. So I would say one of the big things, one of the kind of caveats here is when you choose an item to purchase on Amazon, I think the two biggest things that you think about are kind of the number of reviews and the star ratings, right? And we know, I'm assuming most people know that a lot of that stuff on Amazon is actually not even real. It's an issue that's been played out for a long time on Amazon. Fake reviews and that kind of stuff on Amazon is a big deal. So I would say the fact that we're now seeing like an AI summarized version of those fake reviews is kind of weird. It's kind of odd that an item has like 9,000 reviews or whatever. Maybe it has 200 written reviews. What this AI summary is now going to do is it's going to take all those reviews in and basically spit out an AI summary of those reviews. Now, I looked at it earlier today. It is active when I look at it on my phone, it is. And you said, Sarah, it's not on yours right now, right?
Not at least for the few things I tried to search for. I'm going to just
right. So it seems like it's selective. Everything that I searched came up, everything that you searched didn't. So it seems like it's a selective thing, maybe based on your Amazon account or location or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's up there for some, not for others.
Like you live in lame Utah, so we don't care.
You're last to get these new features.
Right.
Apparently, it's been testing for months. I didn't see it until today when I read the story and went to look at it, but it's becoming more widespread apparently on the US mobile app at this point in time. So it basically just gives as you would think, an AI generated summary. And the ones that I read were actually pretty bad. They were kind of poorly written. The language in one of them was actually wasn't even English. It was it was, but it wasn't. It wasn't. I should say it wasn't even a complete sentence. Right?
It was spam email English.
Kind of. Yes, exactly that. Yeah. So I looked up a review for a TP Link like light switch, and here's what the review said. This was the summary review. It read, "Customers like the connectivity of the switch with Alexa. They say it integrates perfectly with Alexia and works with Amazon Alexa devices using the CASA skill. They also appreciate the performance of the product, saying it works well, no problems, and integrates well with the app." Not even a real sentence, by the way. It's not even the structure of a real sentence.
Works well.
Customers also appreciate its compatibility with other devices. That was the review. Now, if I'm buying that tells me nothing. No. This is what I like about reviews. The thing about reviews is it's everybody's personal experience put into that review. So if they give it 5 stars, I then get to read why exactly they gave it 5 stars, because it'll be very particular. Because I'll sometimes search Amazon reviews for a particular word. Like if I'm buying a thing and I'm like, how does it work with Alexa? I'll search on that product and search the word Alexa. It'll give me all the reviews that mention Alexa. And it's that personal opinion. That doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me, well, people kind of like that it works with Alexa. It's so generic and bland. Like I don't know if this is going to be a thing or not. What do you think, Sarah? Is this a good use of generative AI?
I think it's an excellent use of generative AI. Like, I think this is the reason that generative AI was invented, to like aggregate stuff like that. I mean, because who has time to read hundreds and hundreds of reviews? If I can have somebody kind of like aggregate that and summarize it, then that's going to save me a ton of time. However, in its current iteration, maybe not so much.
I think that's the problem. I think the idea is great and we would like it to, I agree, I would like it to be great and like it to give me a really good like summary of those 200 reviews. Yeah. But right now it's like, it's so middle of the road. I'm not sure it tells me anything that I wouldn't just already assume.
Yeah. And I would say if it summarized all the 5-star reviews into one and then summarized all the 1-star reviews into one, then like I can see both sides in a quick, easy to read, like, you know, and it kind of already does that when it brings up like the best good review and the best like bad review. But if it could just summarize all of that, then it might be a little easier to.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I've noticed in the few that I did look through, it overwhelmingly seemed to summarize only the positives.
Yeah.
I didn't read a review that gave any negatives. Even for items that I found that had negative reviews, they didn't seem to push the negative parts of them. Which, well, think about it. It makes sense that it would be biased. It's Amazon. They're trying to sell it to me. Like, why wouldn't they be biased?
Well, and I don't think that's on purpose necessarily. There's just like, and especially for something that has a ton of reviews, there is an overwhelmingly, it's skewed towards like five-star reviews. And so if it's going to do a summary when there's like 5 one-star reviews and there's like 300 5-star reviews, it's going to summarize more the 300 instead of including the 5 bad. So it's going to be naturally skewed. That's what I'm saying. If they can do a 1-star like aggregate and a 5-star aggregate, I think that'd be a lot more helpful.
I think that's true. Maybe give me a paragraph of like what you think is good and then a paragraph of what you think is bad and make that the review, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I like that a lot better.
Yeah, that would be better for sure.
So apparently both Newegg and Microsoft have also implemented this, by the way, on their stores. So they've had these for a minute. Like you can go to the Microsoft store online and they do a summary review. So does Newegg on their items. I don't know if they skew the same kind of way that these do, or if they have the same kind of problems that this does. But yeah, this is not something necessarily new. It's just Amazon, it's Amazon. It's the biggest online retailer. So we kind of hear about it.
I wonder if people are going to be like, well, my review is not going to really matter anymore because it's just going to be summarized by AI. And so maybe people will eventually not give enough reviews. And then I just came up with my new Chrome extension. So you know how it's a pain in the butt to read a review, but it's even worse when you like have to write one. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't want to put my time. So I'm going to create a Chrome extension and literally just ask you 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. You just put the name of the product, you select a star, and it will automatically write the review for you. And so the reviews...
Just bypass this whole summary rubbish.
Right, exactly.
Just write it. AI writes it in the first place.
Write it, exactly.
Could you imagine the AI summary of the AI written?
Yeah, it'll be insane. It'll cancel out. It'll break the system.
But you hit on a good point, though, Paul, that there's 2 kinds of people that tend to write a review, right? Because most of us are like, I don't want to write a review, it's boring. Unless I really, really loved it or I really, really hated it. That's why you see these pollers like of 5 stars and 1 stars. If somebody goes out of their way and they leave a 3-star, you're like, why did you bother? Like,
exactly. What was so like not important in life that it took like 10 minutes. And like the worst is if they wrote like 3 paragraphs, like 3 pages of a 3-star review, like really detailed as if they're like the dudes selling you like a BMW, it's like a luxury like things that they're telling you everything. I don't need to know all the details. Just relax.
And the AI summary of that, the AI summary is going to be of that. It's just going to say, meh.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. But the funniest part about Amazon reviews is like I'm like a regular person, and then when I'll start reading reviews, I'm like, this person who wrote this review thinks there's some sort of like critic that this is their job and they're making money off this, because it's like, Jesus Christ, like I want to like call them and be like, what do you do in your life that you have the time?
Some people are very passionate about their
or
reviews.
You're like really, really, yeah, exactly, really passionate. Because I never leave reviews. I just give stars. And so anytime like a thing comes up, like, would you like to review this product? I'm like, yeah, it'll be great. And they'll ask you the stars. Whenever like I put the stars, this new window comes up with like, please write few words. I'm like, no, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not writing anything. Too much.
Yeah.
The
only time I write a review is again if I loved or really hated.
So that's I feel like, I'm not saying that they would do that, but I feel like they're going to start having their own version of like fake reviews where they're just going to have AI pretend to be some person that would hypothetically use this product. And I think it's going to just, I don't know, like like I could see so many like misuses for this. And at the same time, like I don't, maybe I'm weird, but like I don't really trust any of the reviews. So what I do on Amazon, I'll literally see is if it's 1 star, I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. If it's 5 stars, the next step I do is I go on YouTube and I find someone physically using the product. Like I physically need to see it. And after I do like research and watch all the videos, go to the, like sometimes I go to the store to look at things, which is weird. Like, it's...
I would say even then, I mean, the problem is right now trying to figure out whether a product or service is good or not. is difficult, even based on a recommendation, because often we know we're in the space where we review stuff. We have YouTube channels. How often have you been asked to be like, hey, I'll send you products if you give me a great review? It happens all the time. Often they don't position it in a way because they can't say that, but you know what they're expecting. They say, we'll send you this thing for free if you give us like a video about it. You know what they're asking, you know. So even when you go find a video on YouTube, can you trust it? I don't know. And you definitely can't trust Amazon reviews. It's been a thing for a while now. There's been lots and lots of stories about, you know, companies who they ship out those items so they get the verified seller thing. They'll ship them out to, because what happens is you can be a random like person and you'll have an Amazon package show up on your door. And it's like, I didn't order that. And it's just random junk. Generally a lot of like just cheap stuff from China. Yeah. And they'll send those out. They'll send them out to a random address. They'll then go in, have the verified user and review the item. They'll make way more money from a high reviewed item than it costs them to ship out 200 of the things to random addresses. So you can't trust the fact that the review's even correct in the first place.
And I fell for that scam because I bought this like exercise letters, the thing you put on the ground and you like do different like footwork drills. I know what like a normal looks like because I used to be like in that whole exercise industry. And I've had many trainers that had their own and use it. And so like, I'm like, I know what the thing should be that's somewhat decent. And so I saw a product on Amazon, which had like 16,000, like 5 or 4.5 star reviews. I'm like, I mean, this obviously has got to be like the legit thing. Very like,
you would think,
very like respectively priced. I bought it. I was so excited to open it because in my mind, I'm already like, not that I was ever going to do these exercises anyway, but in my mind, I'm like doing the footwork drills. I could see myself in my mind's eye looking cool, like very athletic, supposedly. And then I get the product. I open it up. It's complete garbage. So my whole image of me doing all this stuff, not that I was going to do it, but just completely came crashing down. I was so disappointed. I didn't even bother returning it. I just threw it in the trash and threw it out. It was just like, and just was like, you know what? Never buying that again. You know.
And I bet you didn't even go back and leave a 1-star review either, did you?
I wanted to, but it was
right. Because it's like, it's work. Like, why would you? Yeah. And that's what they bank on.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. They figured it out. But man, the disappointment. Oh, just bringing back memories already.
He's got PTSD.
I was so excited. I came home. It was like, you know how you guys say, like, it's like, literally, I had that same feeling like if someone like brand new PlayStation came out, you know, you're getting it the next day and you got it, and it's like, you know, like I don't know, whatever. Not that it's bad.
I mean, like, that's the thing. There's a lot of junk on Amazon that has lots of 5-star reviews, and there's we know it can be gamed and it just can't be trusted in the first place. So that was my original point. The summary of those bad reviews. It's just like, it's bad anyway. So I'm not sure this it doesn't solve a problem.
Yeah.
Because the problem is, what's a real review?
Yeah. That would be the better use if they figured out how to use AI to tell if the review is written by a real person or not and just show you those reviews. That would be in the smarter way. But then that would not sell things that are genuinely negatively reviewed. You know?
I think Amazon's going to have an AI problem here. We'll talk about this. I want to talk about this next week, actually. Maybe it's another story we talk about next week. But I read a story about the influx of Amazon books written by AI, and it basically being an issue that they're getting flooded with these books that are written by AI. They're actually topping the charts now on there. There was one category that was amazing. Out of 100 books, 19 of them were real books. The rest were AI generated. Think about that.
Buying them?
20%.
I don't know who's buying them.
That's insane.
20% were real. The rest was AI generated junk, basically. Amazon are going to have a problem.
I looked at so much AI generated content, and it sucks. Even at my work, we had a video that we did. Somebody else submitted, and it's like a really good content. And my boss was like, "Oh, why don't you use one of those AI services to convert it to a blog post, just so you don't have to like rewrite it and do whatever?" And I did it initially, and it was such garbage that I was like, "No, like you have to put in a little bit more work into it." So, like the fact that I think, it's crazy, you know.
Let's move on to my least favorite section of the week, This Week in Elon. That's this guy.
This Week in Elon.
This Week in Elon. The Elon of the week. I don't know what we want to call it. But
Elon Limbo. How low can he go? Let's watch this show.
Twee.
This week. This week. What Elon will do next.
This guy, when you think he's hit the bottom, he goes even lower.
He creates
when you think he's done the craziest thing, he does something crazier.
So here's the crazy thing, because I was like, I love, like, before, because it's just funny, like reading like Trump tweets, because you're like, who let him, like in the White House when he was like president, who let him, who reviews his tweets? It's like, you got to lock his phone down, something. And the fact that Elon, I think, is trying to like surpass, like, he's like, yes, let me see. Yeah,
it's the same. So this week, news on the update on the fight stuff with Zuckerberg. He tweeted this gem out right here, look, at the end of last week. So he says, for the Tesla full self-driving test drive in Palo Alto tonight, I think this was Friday, by the way, I will ask the car to drive to, I guess this is Musk's tag here, Musk's house.
No, that's Zuckerberg's, yeah.
Zuckerberg's house, yeah, to Zuckerberg's house. I will ask the car to drive to Zuck's house, basically.
Yeah.
We'll also test the latest X live stream video so you can monitor our adventure in real time. If we get lucky and Zuck, I don't know what that means, actually answers the door, the fight is on.
Yeah.
So he basically said, I'm going to drive over to his house in my self-driving car and we're going to fight in your backyard. And Meta had to put out a statement that said, Zuck isn't home.
Yeah.
He's traveling. So we can't fight in our back door. And then look at this one. Knock, knock, challenge accepted, open the door, is what he said. Like,
listen, if I send you that tweet, you would be calling the cops, like, literally the moment I sent it.
It's a little bit too stalkery now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wild. But for them, they apparently could do whatever they want. And
well, my comment is that it seems like he just never left high school. Like, he's one of those like jock guys who are in high school and they're like all like bad A in high school. And then like 10 years later at the reunion, they're still in high school. Like, and you're like, wow, dude, like that stuff does not matter anymore.
What's crazy to me, by comparison, Zuck, like, I like the guy now. I'm like, oh, Zuck is pretty awesome.
I know.
Like,
this is the greatest thing to ever happen to Zuckerberg.
Like, oh, he's a good person. Look at him. He's like,
I love his reaction. He's like, I think we can all agree Elon isn't serious and it's time to move on.
Yeah, he's basically written it off at this point, hasn't he? He said, the dude's not serious. And this happened after that, though, which was insane. He's basically like, no, I'm not. I'm still talking about this
I'm still a child. Like, look at me. I'm still going to write this.
I'm still in high school. I want to beat you up.
I think the thing is, this is going to have real-world effects on him as a person, his legacy for sure. I have no doubt about that. But also his companies. I saw a thing the other day talking about people who are like trading in Teslas because they don't like Musk. For me, that makes sense. I will never buy anything from this guy ever in my life. I will never have Starlink. I would never buy a Tesla. And it's because of him. I do not like the guy. We've let a troll become we've empowered a troll to become the richest person in the world. We've bought his products. We've bought his cars. We've done this stuff. We put up with this junk. It's time to say, nah, move on. Yeah. Like, we're done. We're feeding a troll at this point.
I think one time somebody, because he had like an autobiography and someone called him the real life Tony Stark. So I think it went to his head. And I'm like, listen, first of all, that was a movie, number one.
First.
Robert Downey Jr., you can't compete with him, number two. And number three was a movie. It's like, come on, come back to reality. It's like, you're not the whatever.
Well, I think he lives in a bubble, right? Yeah. He does live in a bubble. And it's one of these things. I was talking to Bobby about this earlier because we're talking about, like, could he fail, right? And yes, he could, right? He could fail. But failure for Musk is not the same as failure for the average person. Yeah. Failure for the average person is losing your house and living in your car or living on the streets. Failure for Musk is, oh, now I'm a millionaire, not a billionaire, right? It doesn't have the same, it's not the same consequences. He doesn't have any consequences. He's literally said, remember he gave that interview where he said, I'll say whatever I want and whatever happens, happens. He's literally come out and said that, and he's playing that out. He's literally doing whatever he wants to do, and he doesn't care that he had that Princess Bride thing that he talked about. Remember that, where he says like the Inigo Montoya thing, where it was basically like, I'll say what I say, and I don't care about money, I don't care about power. I'll say what I want to say. Yeah. And he's living that right now. And unfortunately, it's going to have an effect on his brands and on other people's livelihoods too. That's the unfortunate thing here.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, none of those like organizations really care about people. They might, like, as long as it aligns with their mission, they'll be like, oh, we believe in A, B, C. Like, you could get behind it as long as they're making money. But if something changes, they'll go back, they'll change things. And this is the thing that I find with like huge corporations, like organizations, is that they're so disconnected from normal folks that you can't take anything that they do like as truth. And then at the same time, when they act the way Elon acts, it's just almost like a slap in the face, because it's like, look, they could get away with acting like this, do this stuff, and it's like pretty wild. And the fact that you could say, I'm not going to buy his car, I'm not going to do that, like, he still somehow survives because there's enough crazy people that are just like, oh, look how cool he is. This is
But I think that's going to be, that pool is going to dwindle eventually. I would think. I think there's enough people that are going to be like, yeah, can I trust that? Because I mean, I had Tesla stock at one point. I sold it because I don't want my CEO threatening the other CEO, like, to get in a street fight. Like, I need my CEOs to be boring, man. I want my CEOs to be Tim Cook. I don't hear from him unless he's talking about the next iPhone, right? But I don't see him threatening like somebody. I don't see him picking a fight with Richard Branson. You know what I mean? And I don't want that in my CEOs. They need to be boring. Give me boring every day. That gets my investment.
I'll be honest though, if this fight goes through, I'm buying as much Facebook as I can, because the day Zuck whoops his butt, that stock, at least for the next 3 days, is gonna skyrocket. I'm gonna sell at the top, make whatever.
I would buy Meta over Tesla at this point.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta buy Meta. If they're fighting, you gotta buy Meta, because the day Zuck pummels Musk, Tesla's stock will go down. Will go down low for sure.
That's funny.
And not to get super political, but that's the main reason I don't like Trump, is because he's not presidential. Like you're saying, like, I want my CEOs to be boring. I want them to be articulate and professional. And he doesn't have that air of professionalism. And that's what drives me crazy, is like, when somebody is supposed to be a professional and doing professional things, they should act professionally. And like, when somebody's just like flying by the seat of their pants and running a multi-billion-dollar company, that's terrifying to me. I'm like, ew, like, what are you going to do next?
Yep.
It's like, wait, what do you mean he has access to the nuclear button? What are you talking about? Like,
exactly. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I'm
like,
totally with you.
You piss him off the wrong way, and like, there will be consequences for like the rest of the world.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's scary.
I love the story, the title of the story on
keeps getting
creepier. This is basically their version of the story where he's, shot something with house. But I thought that was kind of a funny title.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another Twitter thing then. It's just Twitter now. This X thing's annoying me.
A social media company formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, let's just call it Twitter. Let's screw Musk. Let's just call it Twitter.
I just really like to say that really fast, like the social media platform formerly known as Twitter.
It's a much better name than X. It still is. Even that, even the long version of that is still better. So they, a couple of days ago, they have been accused of throttling traffic to competitors' websites. Very, very on brand, I think this is of Mr. Musk, because this came from him.
Yeah,
This was his directive. There is no way this did not come out of his mouth that says, put a delay on these websites, and he gave him a list, right? I guarantee it. So some of the ones that were tested that said that it was a 5 to 10 second delay. So what happens on Twitter is they have a third party, or they actually own it, right? This t.co. So it's basically their URL shortener, right? So when you put a URL into Twitter, they use this, they purchase this third party kind of URL shortener. So it gives you this t.co link, which makes it shorter, so it uses less characters, right? That's kind of the theory behind it. So what was happening was, when certain websites went to that t.co shortener, they were adding on a 5 to 10 second delay. So if you clicked on a link, it basically sat there on a blank page for 5 to 10 seconds before it loaded the page. So sites like, get this, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Substack, New York Times, basically anything that Musk didn't like was delayed. Every other website that he didn't have a problem with went through fine. So we know how the internet works this day and age. It's like a 5-second delay is the world on the internet. So what's happening is people are like, oh, it's not working, click off.
Yeah.
10-second delays might as well be like, it's clearly not working. I don't know what's going on there. File a report quickly. The internet's broken. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's like the internet's broken. Am I like online still?
Yeah.
Right. So that was the point, I guess, here. It has since been reversed, apparently. I did notice when I went to a Threads link from Twitter earlier, it did take a minute to load. I don't say a minute. It took what I would say was 5 seconds of white screen before it did load. So I don't know if it's still in effect for some and not others, but I did go to a New York Times article and that pushed through okay. So a Washington Post article pushed through okay. So so it's fixed for some, but apparently not for others. So what do you think? What are the chances? What do you guys think? What are the chances this was just a technical issue versus intentional? Is there any chance it was just technical and just happenstance that it was these sites?
I'm leaning towards intentional, but I'm also leaning towards who has time to like figure that out. like who was the person that was like, links that I'm clicking on Twitter.
So apparently somebody on Hacker News was the original finder of this. Yeah. There was a post and somebody put up, and they just put up originally, I think they put up something like, hey, I clicked on a Threads post and it was taking a long time. And then they started investigating other things. And then they started they're like, hold on a second. There's a bit of a pattern happening here.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of interesting. I'm leaning to intentional. I can't believe that it wasn't, just because every site that had the issue was something that he had an issue with.
Right. So, that's what leans me towards intentional for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And we know he has a habit of just, he says one thing and does another. He's Mr. Free Speech until he doesn't agree with it. Then he's not Mr. Free Speech. Is Mr. Free Speech of everything that he agrees with. It's that which is not free speech at all, dude.
I'll pay your legal fees if you got sacked, but I'm going to sack a bunch of people.
Yeah, exactly.
To use your British word.
Exactly. No, exactly. Exactly. And then there was something else today too, along similar lines, by the way. So this Scott Galloway, who has a podcast, he does a podcast with Kara Swisher, talking about technology and all that stuff. Has talked about Elon Musk a lot recently. Only in the same way we've talked about Elon Musk, right?
Because he can't not.
I mean, he's talking about it in the same way, right? Being like, this dude's nuts. Look what he's doing here. He talked about the sign and how bad the company and stuff. So apparently, Elon just cut him off from Twitter. Didn't like what he was saying. Just like me. Except I didn't say anything. This guy just said
Kevin,
something.
What did you say?
Hey, I mean, I would have been saying plenty of stuff. Maybe AI preemptively cut me off.
It was a Minority Report. You got precog.
Exactly. He knew I was going to say some horrible stuff because I was, and he cut me off before I said it. This guy, he let say a bunch of stuff, and now he's basically locked out his account for 2 weeks. He only got a 17-day ban apparently, so not as bad as mine. Apparently, I did something worse than this guy. But yeah. And then the tweet was amazing because he basically just he came out and said that he'd heard from somebody who works at X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now.
So the new platform on Twitter. Exactly.
The Elon just didn't like what he was saying. Let me find the exact, because this guy's still on Threads, so I follow this guy on Threads, which is where I originally saw this. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So his original thread said, see if I can find this here. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. That a mutual friend reached out and said, Elon feels unfairly attacked by me and wants to meet. I declined. 2 days later, I was locked out of X. So Elon had asked to meet with him because of the bad press he was giving him, because this guy has a bunch of followers, right? 500,000 people are following this guy on Twitter, and I don't know how many on Threads. We look, but it's a chunk. It's 115,000, so a smaller audience there. But he has a platform, right? This guy's saying stuff about X that Elon doesn't like. So Elon wanted to speak to him about it. How that goes, I have no idea. What do you do? What do you threaten him, or do you just? I don't know. I don't know how speaking to him helps. He said no.
He's going to say he's going to get his self-driving car and drive to his house. That's what he said. No.
Who knows? I often wonder what happens with those meetings with Elon. You remember Tim Cook had a meeting with Elon when they were talking about it was when they were talking about the Twitter Blue subscription very early on, and Musk wanted to charge for it, and he wanted to basically speak to Tim Cook about getting out of the surcharge. He didn't want to pay the Apple tax. Yeah. So he met with Tim Cook.
Pay the Apple tax.
He still doesn't want to pay it, but he met with Tim Cook. I wonder how that went down.
Yeah.
I just wonder if this guy's tactic is to kind of
he's
strong arm people.
You want a Tesla? And Tim Cook was like, no.
I don't know, bribery, strong arm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to meet with this guy. This guy's a new NYU professor who runs a podcast. He's not a Musk billionaire, right?
Yeah.
So I can imagine if having to meet with him and him saying something like, you probably don't want to do that, right? It's that's got to be intimidating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he might also be like you said, he's not a Musk billionaire, but everybody loves money. And maybe he's hoping that if he meets with them and comes up with some deal, like, I'll give you this much money, all of a sudden, like, people change their tune. I think this bribing could happen. And, people that could stand up for it's amazing.
Right in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you just say good things about Twitter from here on in.
Yeah. So if
tempting,
you hear
right?
Kevin saying good things about Twitter, you know what happened.
Hey, Elon, if you want to like have a meeting,
yes,
right, and we can talk, like, I'm open to being a Twitter cheerleader from here on in. If you know what I mean.
You know what's so funny though? If you said, Elon, I'm gonna get into my non-smart Toyota Camry and drive to your house, that's gonna come off completely different than you're gonna have CIA agents, helicopters.
Exactly.
It's like, wait a second, but the deeper questions that I've been recently thinking, like, who the hell is Twitter for? Because none of the I don't see younger generation who are maybe 13 to 17 joining, and so who is that going to be? Majority of the people that use the platform, they're I think the 75% is between 18 to 44 years of age.
Yeah, and it has a shelf life, doesn't it, based on its demographic, for sure. Youngsters aren't joining it. They're joining Instagram somewhat, but TikTok and Snapchat somewhat. But they've moved on. There are no young people on Twitter or
young
Threads.
People are on Twitter just to look at the porn. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
And I will say high school kids are on Twitter if they are into sports, because that's how college recruiters find them.
Interesting.
Okay. To be honest, I was going
to say... So they're on it to interact with older people.
I was going to say, if they're young kids on Twitter for the adult content, I think they don't know how to use the internet.
I know.
I'm just going to say, there's how there's one ring to rule them all? I think there's a site to rule them all. And if it's not Twitter, it's not Twitter.
No, that's probably true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because what I'll say is a lot of content filters will filter out the bad websites.
Yeah.
And
okay, but not so much Twitter.
But not so much social media platforms where it's, a content filter.
I guess at least the algorithm's good on those things, because I don't see that stuff. That stuff doesn't come in. I mean, my Twitter feed, I don't see anything on Twitter like that at all.
Yeah.
It just never pops up. So
the part that I hate about Twitter, so I block people on purpose, but the one that I can't believe is, and I guess it makes sense because they try to be freedom, even though Twitter's not free, whatever, based on, how people decide who's on it or not.
$8 a month now.
Yeah. But all the violent content that you see that I don't want to see.
Yeah.
And it's but at the same time, I do appreciate free press, I guess. And to but a lot of times you see that violent content from people that are trying to push agenda, so they have their own spin on it, and it's just
that's one of the reasons I quit using Facebook. The Facebook algorithm was feeding me stuff that just made me angry.
Yeah,
I'm don't want to see that. I just don't want to. I don't care about your political views here or what's going on here or this or this. I don't care what you think about this person. I don't want to see it. It doesn't interest me anymore. Sorry, I've moved on, even if you haven't.
Yeah,
right. They're still in high school.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to something more fun then. Let's move on to our null, not null sections. Anybody have a null week? Awesome. I love this. Okay, not null. Sarah, what you got?
So when we're talking about the Netflix gaming, and I was thinking of what kind of games would be successful on Netflix. My favorite games to play with the family, which I was just in Mammoth with my extended family, all my siblings and all our kids. Jackbox Games is the best group gaming ever. So if you have not played Jackbox Games, you need to correct that immediately. it is literally so much fun. Because what's really great about Jackbox games is they'll have something on the screen, but then everybody joins with their phone. But it's not like you're using your phone like a controller. But like, so if you play like Drawful, it's basically like Pictionary. So you draw on, like, you get a prompt on your phone and you draw it on your phone, and then it pops up, and then everyone has to guess like what it is. And so that's like one of the games. And then there's like Quiplash, where you're filling in the blanks for like different quotes, or like trivia games, like just the normal You Don't Know Jack. So yeah, like I said, there's tons of different games in each of these like party packs. So some of my kids' favorites, obviously, like I said, Drawful, and then the other one.
These all have different games in them. All these packs do.
Yeah, and some of them have like the next version of like the same game. So like I think Quiplash is in a couple different of the party packs. Drawful, you can buy Drawful just by itself. In Drawful 2. And then like TKO, like TEEKO, is one of my kids' favorites, where they like, you draw a t-shirt and then like it matches them up, and like it's just hilarious. And seriously, like whenever I'm with we're at so there's TKO. Yeah. On the left there.
This one.
But yeah, so like I'll bring, like, because you can get it on Amazon Fire Stick, or you can
I noticed that the amount of platforms that it's on is insane. It's on everything.
Tons of platforms. And because it's so easy to join, like you don't need to do anything. That's what I was saying. It's it lends itself to Netflix, because it's just on the screen, and then you're joining with your phone. And then like the phone is where you're like guessing and like doing the things. You're not actually like using it as a controller. Right. And that's what makes it so fun. Anyway, so if I'm at like a New Year's Eve party with like all of my friends, the adults will start playing Jackbox, but like all the kids will come, and we end up having to like put another version of Jackbox like downstairs, so like the kids, stay away. So they can play their own Jackbox and we can play. But like seriously, everybody just kind of comes together. And even if you're not like one of the ones actively playing, and you can put 8 people into a game. And so it's usually
Does the phone controller work with all of these platforms then, regardless of what platform it's on?
Yeah. All you do, it's a website you go to. Like it's just a website. So you go to like jackbox.tv, and then you punch in the code, like it'll have a code on the screen, and that's how you join the game. Okay,
that's cool. Yeah, that's very cool. I like that. I like little trivia games and things like that.
Yeah, like so with the trivia, You Don't Know Jack is like the base, and that's like when I was in the 90s, there was like a disc You Don't Know Jack, and there was
I remember that
movies and everything.
I remember this guy. This was the logo, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was the logo. So that's the main trivia game, and that's still so much fun. Like my husband and I will just play You Don't Know Jack, like just for fun.
I like it. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Okay, Paul, what you got?
So the first one is my main one. Is there's a show on Netflix called Primal, and I'm going to say it's pretty violent, but it's an anime. It won like 5 awards already. It's pretty insane. It's called like Primal. Is it not? That should be Netflix. I don't see it here. Maybe it's not on Primal.
Maybe it's not on Netflix.
I'm giving Primal anime. Let me see.
Just
I have
Google
so many
that.
services. Yeah,
I'm gonna.
Primal TV. Yeah. Oh, Adult Swim, whatever. I thought it was on Netflix, but anyway, it's it's like amazing. It's this anime, won a bunch of awards by. This is it. And you have to, if anybody's going to give it a chance, you have to watch the first episode of season 1. It starts, and it's like the most heartbreaking I ever felt in the first 5 minutes of a show, to the fact that there's 25 more minutes left. And
oh wow, okay.
I was like, they just wrench at your heartstring the most like I've ever seen. I was literally watching with my friend. I was like, are you trying to see if I'm gonna cry? Is that like your goal here? Is this your goal to see like I'm gonna cry right now? Because I'm already crying. I'm just trying to like not, it's pretty insane, but a really, really good show. And the second, not Null for me, which I probably shouldn't mention it like too much, but like, you know how people have fidget spinners? I found something that, because I went to DEF CON and they taught us how to pick locks apparently. Apparently, picking locks is one of the funnest things you could do. By the way, you never pick a lock that's attached to your door, your neighbor's door, anybody else's. You buy a practice lock at Home Depot. So I have this like whole set of like little things that you could use to pick locks. I'm sitting like literally like picking lock on my couch. It's just so satisfying. But the other part of me, which is scary, is that if I can do it,
anyone can.
Anyone can.
That's
so all of you,
worry,
make sure you have good home securities. And apparently there's locks that are very complex to pick. So whatever. But the funniest thing I've learned is that criminals don't use lockpicks because they go with like a much simpler method, which is like a brick through your window or just kick the door, like, so
just straight through the door.
Much easier.
So it's very impractical, believe it or not. But it's fun nevertheless. And I had a funny experience because I forgot I had this in my pocket, and I went to Hoover Dam, which is apparently whatever.
It's like a protected government facility.
Is it though? Like I didn't know.
Yes, it is.
They don't. Maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but you have to go through these metal detectors.
Yes,
and this
you do.
Is where I have my card that I use to pay, and so I go through the metal detector, and you have to take everything out, and I have a lockpick set, and the security guard literally picks it up, and he kind of like looks at it, like sideways, kind of like okay. And I guess he was like, didn't know how to handle it. And he's like, okay, you may go. And I was like, okay.
Oh, wow. I'd have just been like, look, man, I'm from DEF CON.
I 100%. He didn't say that, by the way. So I had it the whole trip, and every bathroom I went to, I'm like, there's a door here. But then I don't want to go to jail, so I would never do that. And people really shouldn't. Like, you will go to jail hardcore. Like, it's like, like when it's, but it's kind of like a cool puzzle, like if you're at home sitting at whatever. So at the same time, I was like, this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Well, here's what I want next week, Paul, from you. I need you to come next week with some not no recommendations for locks that can't be picked.
I have some good ones because
there you go.
Because we need
next
to know.
Week. We now need to know.
Yeah, I'll definitely get some for you because when I used to have my own martial arts school, we had a guy who trained with us who was like a locksmith, and he literally is like, let me install your locks for you, and he had this weird key that has way more teeth on top than normal locks, and then it has these crevices on the sides, and so it's almost like impossible to pick if you don't have the key. And I was like, that's the lock I want. So I'll figure out what those are, and I'll definitely share.
Yes, bring those next week for us. Okay. So I'm from your lockpicking tools, which I'm guessing, like you said, most burglars will probably just go through a window. So they would use them if you're like a spy or something, which is kind of like relates to my recommendation this week. It's a podcast. And it's called Spy Valley. It's by what company was it? Oh, PRX. So the same guys that do same podcast network that do This American Life and Ear Hustle, which are both other great podcasts. So this is basically it's a story from the 80s, and it is a guy who was a spy for Russia. He spied and basically sold nuclear secrets from the US to Russia. He is now out on parole and is freely talking about it. So he was sent to jail in the 80s. He's now on parole, and this guy basically was able to interview him, and it's a fascinating story of like Cold War espionage. Super, super cool podcast. The first 4 are out, and there's at least 2 more coming out. And they're not very long either. Look, they're like 30 minutes. So you listen to them on a fast speed and you get through them kind of quickly. But the story is fascinating. His stuff that he talks about is really, really cool. And I'm a big fan of it. I think the artwork's great too on it. I think it's really good. It makes me want to redesign our podcast artwork because I really like this. I just like the style. Not necessarily the exact same thing, but the style's super cool. And it's really well put together, really well produced. PRX are a good network. They make good stuff. Like I say, This American Life is like literally one of the number one it's always in the top kind of 5 podcasts on every platform. It's such a good podcast.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing. Yeah,
Nice.
definitely worth checking out. That's Spy Valley. I like the subline. An engineer's nuclear betrayal.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Proper
face it,
spy
Kevin. Anything that is a betrayal to the United States is just right up your alley with the British.
I guess maybe it's just like, maybe it's just ingrained in me somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to think
Like,
that.
man, 1776 really screwed us.
I still drink tea daily. because of that.
Yeah.
It's my personal protest against the country that I live in. It's totally not. I've been to Boston. That's
I told you my
wow,
brother
that's nice.
told me that the harbor still tasted like tea, right?
Oh, no way.
I mean, I was like 10, but my brother's like, it still tastes like tea. I'm like, really?
You're like, let me try it.
Yeah.
Don't try it.
I didn't. Yeah. No, I'm good. But yeah, I totally believed that the Boston Harbor still tasted like tea.
That's funny. Well, that's it. That's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. Thanks everybody for showing up. We would love it if you left us a review somewhere. That'd be awesome. We have a bunch of different places to review, by the way. I looked at both. So we have like a bunch on Spotify that are different than the ones on Apple. So on Spotify, you can't actually leave a written review. You can just leave stars. So if you're on Spotify, we'd love a 5 stars from you. It just takes a second, right? If you're there listening right now, just click 5 stars. If you made it this far, we'd love you just to click 5 stars. That'd be amazing. Likewise, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can click 5 stars. If you want to leave a written review there too, that would be amazing as well. That definitely helps us out. We're trying to crack that top 100 or top 200, right? Yeah, top 200 on there. So we would love if you helped us out.
And if you're on YouTube, click that like button.
Yes, click the like button. Subscribe if you have to.
If you
don't
have to.
subscribe, but
Yeah.
I don't think subscriptions matter anymore. I really don't.
They really
I'd rather
don't.
you just watch it and like it. That would be
Yes.
great.
Yeah, I mean, if
So
you
that would be amazing.
likes will help push it to more people. So that
Yeah.
Exactly. You can dislike it too if you like.
yeah, it's true.
If you really hated it, if you
All
listened to it
press
this
is
long
good
and you
press.
disliked it, exactly. If you listened to it this long and you dislike this, get some help. Because why are you still listening now? The only people listening now should be people who love what we've talked about this week, right? This is for the 3 insiders who are still here. This is for you. Hopefully there's more than that. Okay, we'll catch everybody next week.